All right, let's go get them. Hey, Mike Garver here, Coach Garver, and today we're talking about cleaning the data, and this is so important. Um, Whenever you're working with data, you should assume that the database is dirty. It's got garbage in it. Yes, thus the trash can, right? And remember, garbage in, we get garbage out, right? So we got to get garbage out. We got to clean the data, and it's really important. So assume databases are dirty, filled with garbage, unless they've been cleaned. So, and the whole key here is in our databases, we're going to have all these numbers in there, and all this data, and we got to make sure that the data in there is stuff that we can trust. It's good to go. And before we're going to do any data analysis, any data analytics, anything, we've got to make sure that the data is cleaned and ready to go. Early on, I'll never forget this. I cleaned the database and got it ready to go. And then I did a whole analysis project. And I mean, I'm talking a week's worth of work. And then the company basically said, oh, these people aren't supposed to be in there. This is, and I'm like, bad data. And I had to go back in, re-clean the database again, and then start over on the analytics. So happens to you once. So this is always before we do a data analysis. And to be honest with you, I always took my time. I slowed down when we're doing this because I wanted to make sure I got it right, because I didn't want to have to go and redo everything. So, all right, let's go in and talk about some things that we want to look for when we are cleaning the databases. So before, and I'm going to give you like a laundry list of here are common problems that you can look at with your databases, and we want to take care of it. But I also have a red flag system, and let me tell you what I'm talking about here. Sometimes what I'm going to talk about, it's so egregious, it's such a problem, it's clearly garbage data, and you look at it, you go, get them out. Other times, you're not sure. It could be a problem, it could, and you're just kind of on the fence, like, ooh. And in those, so if it's an egregious problem, one strike and you're out. But what I do is I kind of have a red flag system, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm not sure if you should be out, but I'm going to give you a red flag on that one. And if I see another red flag, well, 2 strikes, you're definitely out. And I kind of keep track of how many grievances they have per person, right? Because we're really going through a database and all these people. And if they've got 2 red flags, then I'm much more likely to get them out. If they got 3, then I'm definitely getting them out. So sometimes they're bad enough to get off their own after 1. Other times I want to see more evidence, more linkages between those. So let's go ahead and get down to what we're looking for here. So missing data is always going to be a problem. In survey research, always going to be a problem. In any databases, we often find missing data. So there are 2 common things that we'll do with missing data, and one is do nothing. And the other method is what we call data imputation, which is kind of like we make up the missing data because we think they would answer like this. I generally don't do that. I generally don't like that. I tend to be, if it's missing, I'm going to leave it missing. And if we're missing a lot of data, then maybe I just get them out. And I'll show you examples of this. But sometimes they didn't answer a question because maybe the question was asking about training and they don't have experience, so they didn't answer about it. Well, that's what I want, right? So sometimes missing data is okay, and actually we want missing data. So it's kind of one of those things it's a judgment call. Too much missing data, just get them out. You got to see what's missing on it and maybe why they're missing on it. So, but that's always going to be a red flag on missing data. The other one too is we always want to be looking for outliers in the database, right? So let's say we've got income as one of our variables, and Zuckerberg here is in my database, and we're getting an average income, right? Well, if he's in the database, my average income goes up to $10 million a year. Without him, it might be $50,000 a year. And so we got to make sure that we're careful looking for those outliers so we don't include them in averages. The other thing that happens too is it doesn't happen as much anymore, but it happened more so when we'd be entering data. But let's say that the data, like our survey question, goes from 1 to 10. Well, what if you see a 557 in there? That's an outlier, and it's just a mistake. They were typing 5 and they hit 557 instead, and all of a sudden that is an extreme outlier too, and we want to get those out of our database. 10 fever. This is a Garver terminology, the teddy bear with the fever. I love it. Sorry, but 10 fever is when there's no variation in the data. And what do I mean by no variation? They give you a 10 for everything. They give you a 7 for everything. I used to call it 7 fever, right? Like they just, and so there's one of two things. Typically, when you see no variation or 10 fever, 7 fever, whatever it is, they're racing through and they're not thinking about anything. They're just giving you answers. That's one potential problem. However, 10 fever could be, I think you guys are the greatest. And on a 1 to 10 scale, I'm giving you nothing but 10s because they love you. And so we don't want to get rid of them in that situation. But if they're not thinking about the answers, then we definitely want to get rid of them like that. So here again, could be a red flag is what we want to look at in those situations. So usually when we get data, you can tell how long they took the survey. And so this time, so when we take a survey, like I get a survey and I say, okay, it should take them 120 seconds on average. That's what we think. And maybe if they're really going quick, let's say it's 75 seconds is fast, but acceptable, but it's fast. And then, 300 would be really slow like that. So we have times, and if they go too fast, let's say they do it in 15 seconds. Well, they didn't do it. They didn't think, get them out of there. Sometimes it's right on that edge and we're like, ooh, red flag. Same thing with too slow, right? Sometimes when people take a survey, they answer a question and they go do something else. They answer a question, they do something else. And it's like, wait a minute, are you even focused on because you're so distracted? So too fast for me is usually a bigger problem, but too slow can be a problem too. And so we'd want to keep that in mind too. So I set traps. That's a mouse trap, by the way. So I set traps for people, and I might have a question that says, please select the number 6 for this question. And then I would give them a number. And if they give me anything other than 6, I know they didn't read it. And so it's like, failed the trap. Now, usually if they fail this one, it's just, you're gone because you didn't read it closely enough. There's no need to give them a red flag on this one. It's just, nope, you're booted on this one. Another one is bipolar answers, man. Yes. So typically in CX research, which is what we do in this class, there's like an overall dependent variable like loyalty or satisfaction. And let's say they give us a 10. Overall, you guys are the greatest. And then we have our independent variables, or what we call attributes. And in those, let's say they give us nothing but 1s. And we're like, wait a minute, let's get this straight. Overall, you love us, but all the individual parts you hate. Does that make sense? No. Like, what's going on there? So generally, those people, that's a weird response, and that can flag red flags for me as well. So let's do this. We've been talking about what these things look like. I want to go to an SPSS database. It's a really simple example, but I kind of want to showcase it, and we'll talk about what these things look like in practice in an actual database. Let me give you a caveat on this too. So AI, right, is a big important thing, and it's in some things in research it does really well, some things it doesn't. It does a good job of cleaning databases, by the way. If you have like in ChatGPT, if you have the data analysis plugin, which is the extra, you got to spend extra money for it. And if you have that, it does a good job of data analysis. So if I was going back into consulting and I was cleaning databases, man, oh man, I would do that. And what's great about it too is you can kind of prompt it to all these things. I would prompt all these things in there, and it would flag it. Hey, person 32, yeah, it kind of shows it. And then it just say, do you want these guys booted? And it does a nice job on that. So if you're out in data analytics, if you know that ChatGPT can do a really good job of cleaning databases. I'm going to show you kind of old school, how we'd look at it, things like that, and what it looks like in a database. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. There we go. So there is my SPSS database. And so I really kind of want to quickly describe the database, and then I'm going to kind of highlight the problems with these. Here we go. So ID is up here, and that is customer ID. So this is customer 1, 2, 3, and so forth, right? And these are people who took our survey. So that's their ID number. NPS is a overall loyalty, right? So it goes 0 to 10. If they give you a 10, they love you. If they give you a 1, 0, they hate you. They're not loyal. Attributes could be things like quality and service and courtesy and those things. Like those are the independent variables which would lead to overall NPS. And these are also like, let's say 1 to 10 is the scale on those, okay? And then as we go down here, you can see time, right? And so time is how long did they take to take the survey? And so you can see here that I think I said 120 seconds is kind of on average what we think that should be. And 75 would be quick. Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, you're starting to, that's pretty quick if you're doing 75 seconds. And anything over, let's say, 300 seconds, we'd call slow. Here's income, right? And so 28,000, 32,000. And this is trap 6, where I said, hey, please write in what that 6 looks like. So that's kind of what those variables mean. And now what I want to do is I want to go by person and see if we've got any of these problems. So customer ID number 1, which is right there. Boy, first thing I see, there's a ton of missing data, right? And so they're missing NPS. They've got only one attribute. I'm like, what were they doing? Their time on that is 133. There's nothing about income. Trap, they got that one right. So they only answered one question that I can do anything with. So guess what? That is so much missing data. You're out of there. Yep, I don't need another red flag. I mean, they only got one attribute. It'd be weird to include them. So they're gone. And generally speaking, what I would do is I would have like an original database, and then I would have a cleaned version of that. And then I take notes on this stuff. So I would say in my notes, I'd be like, customer ID 1 was eliminated because of high amounts of missing data. And I'd keep track of everything that I was doing. So if my boss ever said, well, why did you get rid of 1? Too much missing data, and so forth, right? And I have the original, so if we needed to kind of make changes, I could go back to that. But I got my log of what I did and why. So then we get to customer number 2, ID number 2, and we see NPS is a 10, which is like super loyal, and then all the attribute scores are a 1. That's kind of like that bipolar customer. Like, what are you thinking? Like, overall, you love us. On everything that we do, you hate. Does that make sense? Get them out of there. They're nuts. Let's see. Okay, they're good. All right, so now what we're looking at is now we're on customer ID number 3. This guy right there. And so overall on the NPS, they give us a 9, 10, 6, 7, 8. Oh, attribute 5 is missing. So I look at something like this and I say, okay, there's missing data, but most of it's there. I'm comfortable with this, leaving this missing data in there because it's only one question. And maybe they didn't have experience with attribute 5. Kind of like, okay, maybe that was asking about performance and training and they didn't have training. Or what was your interaction like with customer service? Well, they've never called customer service. I'm cool with that. Let's look at the other ones. Time is 113, so that's really good. 28,000 seems to be in there. Yeah, everything else is good. I'm leaving those guys in. All right, here we go. So now we got customer number 4. And you can see customer number 4, they give an NPS of 6. There's all the answer choices. We got good variation in the data, 7, 9, 10, like you can see this row right here. 98 seconds is what they took, so they're a little faster than average, but they're still within that comfortable range. $20,000 is their income. Oh, trap 6. So I asked them, please write in 6 for this answer choice. They put 7. They're not careful. See ya. Kick them to the curb. Yeah, can't have that. Can't have it. So they were doing so good, but they're obviously not paying attention on that one. So, okay. So now, and here's what's interesting. You could say, well, they were moving quick too. So they're moving quick and they made a careless error. time to go. Okay, so now we're going to look at number 5. They give us an MPS. There's good variation. They give us a 7, 8, 9, 10, 6, so they answer those. 111, they're just a little bit faster than average. Let's see what else here. Uh-oh. Look at that. Almost $1 million is their income. So when you look at all the incomes, right, it's like 20,000. I bet the range is 18,000 to 32,000. And then, oh, we got somebody at 922, 9 million, right? So what would I do in this situation? I probably would take out income. And maybe it's a mistake, but I wouldn't leave it in there or I would run frequencies instead of averages. But I would definitely make a note that there's an outlier and this guy's loaded, this person is loaded, and they would be, I wouldn't want to calculate an average with that score in there. So I might just delete it. The trap 6, they pass, so that's good to go. All right, let's keep moving. Now we're on this person right here. ID number 6. Uh-oh, you see the 10 fever. They give it 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 on everything. Maybe they love us. Maybe we're just that good. Let's keep going down this. I go to time, 60 seconds. So, okay, so they're moving quick, man. Yeah, so now that's a red flag. So they got one red flag with the 10 fever. The second red flag is with the time, right? And so they're way fast. Let's see if there's any other problems. Oh, look at that. The trap, they put a 10. Get them out of there. So this is like a 3 flag on them. I probably, to be honest with you, if they're going 10, 10, 10, 10, and then I see fast like that, like if I think the minimum we should accept is 75, they're out on that anyhow. But then when they do that, now I can sleep easy at night getting rid of them. So, okay, they're gone for that reason. By the way, so this is obviously, I'm giving you horrible examples of data. So normally we don't have this much bad data, but I'm trying to showcase all the problems in one database. Here we go, ID 7. You see this? We got some variation in those answers, right? And there's no missing data. 135 is the time, so they're a little slower, but that's okay. 18, that's in range. Hey, we're holding on to this person, right? And everybody else down here put 6s. So they stay. So far we got one person stays. Now we're looking at 8. 8's an interesting because they've got 9 fever where there's no variation in the data. So that makes me suspect, red flag. Now maybe it's because they really, really like us. Uh-oh, do you see what's else though? This one would be here. They're really slow. So that would be a red flag. They're so slow. I said 300 seconds would be like a slow version of it. I'd be leery of this one too. Two red flags. I probably would get rid of them on this one. I'm a little easier on this one because slow is better than fast, but slow is a problem too. So get them out. 2 red flags. All right, there we go. Here we go. Now we got customer number 9. They got all kinds of data. We got variation in the data. 113 seconds over here. 28. Hey, we got another person that stays, right? So their timing, this looks right. They put 6. Love it. Love it. And then ID, person number 10. All right. So they give us a 1, so they don't like us, right? They definitely don't like us. Oh, wait a minute. These are supposed to be 1 to 10, and we got 234. So more than likely what happened is somebody's adding this data, and they hit a 2 and somehow hit 2. They hit 234 by mistake. What would I do with this one? These guys are definitely moving fast. They're definitely moving fast. This one's a hard one, right? That's a judgment call. I kind of want to keep them in because they don't like us. And I think, I guess I would look at how much data I actually had. If I was really small on data, short on data, I might keep them in. Everybody else is relatively positive, and these guys are, probably what I would do is I probably would delete that one, the 234, and call it missing. And I probably would move on. Could you make a case that we should boot them because there's a mistake here and that mistake? You could make that argument too. So again, it's not an exact science. There's some judgment calls. My judgment call on this would be they're moving quick, but there's good variation in the data. I probably would get rid of that and call it good. So anyhow, all right, my friends. Hey, this is just an example of, I've kind of given you the outline of what it looks like. And this is just a small database that I would do. And then what I would normally do on a situation, I'd have that log that I talked about. So I'd have the original database, and then I'd save a database, and then I would go through and say, hey, this one, I'd highlight that row, and then clear. They're gone, right? And I would go through and clear out all those rows of bad customers one by one, and then all of a sudden I'd save it, and that would be my clean database. So that's kind of old school doing it, and I think I wanted to show you so you see what it looks like. But you can do this in ChatGPT too, and it does a pretty good job of it too. So just make sure you have good prompts of kind of the things that we talked about in this video. So, all right, my friends, thank you so much. See you in the next exciting episode.